Okay, welcome everyone. I'm Christian Mouton, Secretary General of the EESTEL Association. Welcome to this new webinar about instant payment acceptance and how the nexo standards can contribute to the building of the right user experience. Today we have three speakers. Arnaud Crouzet is the VP of Business Consulting at Hyperion. Robert Fargier is the CEO of Istium and also the nexo ambassador for Africa. And Jean-Luc Pellegrinelli is the CEO of JLPi Consulting and international consultant. So they will touch many topics today about this, the impact of instant payment acceptance and other factors on the POI and the possible standards. First, I will just introduce very quickly the EESTEL Association. The association was founded in 1998. It gathered experts, either freelance consultants and experts from enterprises. It's dedicated to digital transactions. So digital transactions is covering a lot of business sectors. We'll see a bit of detail later on. Our ambition is to develop global visions of the developments in this digital transactions world. So focus on the European market, but of course, there's many things happening outside Europe and with very interesting and impacting initiatives and solutions. So we try to address this as well. And the other ambition is to provide expert content of immediate value. So we focus on practical impacts of the topics that we have. So it's basically it's a platform for the exchange and of knowledge between the members and to collectively develop more knowledge that we can also share with the general public or people from the ecosystem. The expertise domains are going from payment, obviously, as for today's webinar, to digital identity, ticketing, also digital currencies and assets that are a rising topic, and electronic invoicing. We try to address the whole range of aspects regarding each technology or each business domain, so technologies, architecture, standards, certification, and regulations. In terms of activities, I would say it's the usual production of experts, that is publication, white papers, conferences, and webinars like this one. And to finish, we have over the years built a number of excellent partnerships and relationships with the likes of Trust Tech Conference, InCyber, the Quorum Securement, Association du Paiement, France Payment Forum, and the Nexo Association. As we can see, two of our speakers are very active in the Nexo Association. And I forgot to say, by the way, that three of our three speakers are members of EESTEL. Oh. Then, table of contents. We'll start with Arnaud, who will introduce describe the importance of the ISO 20022 for the financial ecosystem and how it is developing. Then Robert will talk about the impact of the instant credit transfer at the POI systems with concept reminder, the impact and consequences, and of course the user experience that is key for this. Then Jean-Luc will introduce the panorama of European acceptance with the landscape, with the current limitation, and with the perspective. And finally, back to Arnaud, who will develop what the nexo standards can do for the various topics raised during the webinar, and more generally, where is nexo aiming. So now I can leave the floor to Arnaud for the first introduction of the importance of ISO 20022. The floor is yours, Arnaud.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Christian. It's a pleasure to be with you today and to have this discussion together regarding ISO 20022. Very interesting topic. Maybe to understand the main challenges on the 2022, and especially for a PY system. In fact, we can see on the market an increase usage, demand, deployment on 2022. So this is becoming the standard de facto for all type of payments. But there is a main question is how to manage instant payments in 2022 and instant payment at a point of interaction. So this is a big question because on the point of interaction, we already have many type of payment application, payment instrument, especially on the terminal point of view. So just to understand, we have this type of ecosystem on the PY environment with many type of application, with card payment, and then tomorrow instant payment, but also with credit transfer, loyalty, a lot of things to be done, to exchange and to manage, to have interaction with the sales systems. So it's not an easy environment. So the main question, and we will see during our discussion today, we will try to reply to that question on how to bring instant payment at a point of interaction at the terminal itself. To understand, ISO 20022 is really becoming the standard de facto on the field, on the market. A good example is the current migration that has been imposed by SWIFT with a target for November this year. So for November this year, all the different sectors and actors should be able now to exchange with SWIFT on 2022. It's an important move, let's say, on the European landscape and the international landscape. It means that all the different other actors, they need to be ready from central banks, from banks, and so on, for domestic exchange informations, but automatic clearinghouse. And then it's going to instant payment, and later on, it will arrive also on cards. And cards also will migrate to 2022 then. So this, it's huge trends to have this migration over the world on 2022 compared to a previous, and let's say old-fashioned, old protocols based on 8583. So this is to have this global landscape. The RTGS are in progress for migration over the world. Automatic clearinghouse as well. Instant credit transfer, it's already using 2022 for bank-to-bank for financial information. And on the card aspects, the main question is how quick it will move from 8583 to 2022. And we know that 8583, it's a very an old protocol, old specification that is becoming now too old-fashioned to manage and to handle the different type of transactions and the evolution of the market in the field with many additional services that we wanted to have. So to reply to all these type of questions, I will let the hand to Robert to go in more details on how to bring instant payments at the point of interaction. So Robert, it's for you now.
Okay, thank you. Please give me the floor. Thank you very much. So welcome to everyone. And I'm very pleased to be with you, thanks to EESTEL, and to have the opportunity to talk about a topic that will be more and more up on the floor in the next month. We are dealing a lot with instant trade transfer since 2022. This is the year where nexo standard decided to accept not only cards but whatever payment instrument at the PY system. So that this is why we are working now on instant trade transfer. Some reminder about some concepts about instant payment, what we call instant payment. As you know, the instant payment is an account-to-account payment done in real time, or near real time, within 30 seconds. In Europe, for instance, it's only 10 seconds. The transfer is done whatever the account type. So, For instance, all accounts are supposed to receive money, and some of the accounts may have some restriction to send money to other accounts, depending upon the regulation on the field. The service is always available and open 24/7 all the year. And this is a huge challenge for all the financial ecosystem, including the central banks that need to go forward with their own system, and especially the RTGS. The funds are immediately available to the payee, which is a great improvement in some countries, for emerging countries, for instance. And to know that when you pay your merchant, it will be paid right now. So it's like cash, and that's the reason why instant credit transfer is so important, instant payment today, because it's one of the opportunity to replace cash with digital money. And last but not least, the transaction is irrevocable. No backtracking. It's not possible to go. There is no cancellation or whatever. So just to understand, instant payment can be done conceptually with the 3 digital payment instruments that we know today. I mean, credit transfer, direct debit. It exists in some countries, for instance, in Germany, and cards, when you are using, for instance, single message with cards. But in the world today, 99.9% of the implementation of instant payment are done with credit transfer. So we are talking now of instant credit transfer. And why is this? Because the capability with credit transfer to have a behavior on the payer side that is very close to the behavior you have when you pay by cash. Just for you to know, it's not because the account of the customer is settled in real time that the banks are settled in real time as well. This is a target for all the financial institutions. The reason why, for instance, in Europe, we have TIPS, target instant payment settlement, that is in real time also, 24 hours a day. So there are 2 big models. The old RTGS are with deferred net settlement, and the new RTGS are with immediate settlement, whatever the transaction. In fact, with instant credit transfer, we have 2 kinds of problematic that could be solved together. Interoperability between the financial institutions is one of these, and this is taken into account by the central banks with some IPS system implemented in several countries, including in Europe, in USA with FedNow, or real-time payment, in Canada with Interact, in China, in most of the countries today. But at the same time, we need to work also with the acceptance of this instant credit transfer between the payer and the payee. So the acceptance is very well known today for the card, for instance. But for the instant credit transfer, we need some kind of preparation that is quite different from the one you know with the card. The preparation with the card is to send an authorization from the acceptor to the issuer financial institution. But in the instant credit transfer, we are now dealing with 2 different things. First, a payment request from the payee and the payer that can be done either locally or through what we are calling an RTP scheme, a request to pay scheme. that make interoperability of request to pay between different financial institutions. So this is what we need to manage today, plus something that is now widely used by the banks, that are notification of arrival of funds or debit notification of the account, or credit notification of the account. So this is the main architecture of ICT today, instant credit transfer. Just to remind you, who is pushing ICT today, instant credit transfer? Most of the financial institutions, including the biggest one, World Bank, Bank for International Settlements, that is the central bank of the central banks in the world, and so on, plus some foundation and association are pushing instant credit transfer for the reason I said, that is that this payment instrument is very close of the behavior of paying by cash. And these have some important impacts for all the ecosystem. First of all, it has impact for the financial institution, either banks, microfinances, payment institution, for instance, that need to enhance the core banking systems they have, including setting up more cybersecurity on the core banking that will be more exposed to external networks. The central banks themselves need to upgrade the RTGS system to be real-time all the year, what was not the case until now. And when we see the rise of instant credit transfer, when you deploy the first interoperable system of instant credit transfer, what you can see on the field is that the deferred credit transfer, the standard one that you know today, is decreasing, the direct debit is decreasing, checks are decreasing, and there is a big appetite for instant credit transfer, and the number of transactions of instant credit transfer are increasing very, very fast, faster than we know before with the card. In some countries also, we saw some reducing the use of the card, in fact. There is something very important. Today's implementation of ICT are based more or less on what we are calling the P2P use cases. In fact, application in one financial institution and directly initiating, in fact, instant credit transfer for the payer bank. But this is true either for money transfer. Money transfer is when you are not paying goods and services, or for merchant payment when you are paying goods and services. But without management of what is on the POI system. And that's the key point. We need to move from these P2P use cases to P2B or C2B use cases, and what we will see now. In fact, at the POI system, we are now facing new requirements. First of all, as said Arnaud, we need to support several payment instruments with the same terminals or with the same servers. And that means also that the system we know today that are dealing with physical acceptance in store, and the systems that are dealing with e-commerce acceptance were quite separated today, but they are convergent systems today with the fact that we support many payment instruments. each application can work with one of several schemes. I mean, until today, we have closed loop schemes like, for instance, what we call WeChat or Orange Money, MTN Money, Interact. That was Interact was open loop. That was some closed loop system. What we see on the field is that you need to support at the same time different closed loop system and one or several open loop system. For instance, this is the great challenge we are now facing. And all the type of devices or server should be supported by the POI system. We have now a server on the cloud. We have now servers on premises. You have devices that was a legacy terminal that, like we know, with some provider like Enginico, Erifone, Pax, Castle, and so on. But also you can use now with ICT devices like your own smartphone, for instance, or your own tablet if you are a merchant. And at this POI system, you need to introduce two new functions. First, to deal with the payment request, and there are several ways to deal with payment request. And please remember that if I request you a payment, is not you are not engaged. The payer is not engaged to pay. I can ask several times to somebody to pay me, but the payer, it's a payer decision to initiate the transaction. That's very different from the card use cases we had until now. And then also we need to deal with the payee institution notification on the credit transfer, the credit statement we have on the payee account. The arrival of funds need to be known by the POI system in order to close the transaction. Little word about the channels. It's very easy. All the channels are available or eligible in order to be used for instant credit transfer at the POI system. So whatever the link, including social network in some countries, it can be used, and even more, you can combine some of them. Please note that the consumer may have some devices, acceptor may have other devices, and the application on each devices should be compatible each other, at least at the protocol level. Talking about the user experience. If we want to pay in P2P mode today in a store, in a merchant, or even on e-commerce, it's quite a little bit complicated. In some countries, for instance, they have only legacy phones using USSD messages. That are some messages used on the telecom operator channel. In other, you have a specific application developed by the banks, and that can be different from one region to another region. For merchant payment, in China, for instance, they initiated the transaction with QR code to be scanned. That is quite long comparing at the user experience we can have with NFC on the card, for instance. And the notification in most of the country today are not done automatically to the application, but are sent by SMS or email. So it's quite long in order to receive the notification to close the transaction. So today's the user experience at the POI is very quite long and not really very friendly experience. So we need to work on this, and that's the reason why nexo standard is to fluidify, in fact, this, we need to do two things. First of all, to fluidify the payment request, either using a local channel, that could be a QR code, or an NFC communication, Bluetooth low energy, Bluetooth communication, Wi-Fi communication between the payee and the payer. Of course, the application of the payee and the application of the payer could be must be compatible, at least understanding the same QR code or understanding the same message we send between the payee and the payer. In some cases, but this is not very developed in the world today, but more and more in the next years, instead to send locally the payment request, we can send the payment request through your financial institution or a third-party entity that are working on behalf of the financial institution, and connect it to a request-to-pay scheme that can send the request to the payer financial institution that know his customer, so we can send the payment request to the application of the payer. This is the first things to do in order to fluidify, in fact, the user experience at the POI. The second thing to do is when the payer initiates the transaction and the fund is sent to the payee financial institution, we should be advised of the reception of the funds and to be able to say to the POI system, it's okay, now I have my money on my account, so you can deliver the goods and services. You can deliver the goods and services like for cards before payment, during payment, or after payment. It depends on what kind of food and services you are delivering. So this is mainly what the next challenges we have to face on the POI system, and I will let now Jean-Luc describe what are exactly the experience of the perspective we have in Europe about that.
Okay, thank you, Robert, for the floor. So, waiting for the... Okay, so the three items we are going to address together today is landscape of the European acceptance, and the limitation and the perspective. If I had to summarize today's situation in few words, I would say that there is one key word today, that European sovereignty is on everyone's lips, but the fragmentation remains. We will see in the landscape in the next slide. The second topic is current limitation. What do I mean by that? First, Robert explained that during his presentation, I do not distinguish P2P payment, online payment, and proximity payment. And for me, to ensure the successful acceptance, the customer base must be first built up. So the P2P is the way to set up a customer base and to go to the next step, which are the online and retail payments. And the last item is perspective. For me, the two key questions I would like to address is, where does Europe want to go? And the second one, in where should Europe go? So go through details. So when you look at this landscape, my first reaction was, wow, Europeans are hyperactive on this topic. Lots of domestic solutions, global initiatives such as EPI for European Payment Initiative, and European Payments Alliance. What's a pity, just one word away from being perfect. And I would say that significant work has been conducted the last 2 years to achieve critical mass in several countries. A good example is France, from going from PELIP to Wero for the EPI site. So for EPI, you know that Wero is a multi-country by design. For the moment, Wero addresses 5 countries. Just a remark about the Benelux. So Benelux is Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. So for the moment, only Belgium for the time being, and later on Luxembourg and the Netherlands. So Luxembourg just confirmed it a few weeks ago. The second initiative is Europa. So Europa banks in interoperability. There is no pun intended. Europa addresses 9 countries. And the determination of Europa is to go beyond the borders of Southern Europe. For the moment is Italy, Portugal, and Spain, and become a truly pan-European project. So there's really two initiatives in competition. But the landscape is changing. There is a tentative to collaborate. We will see later in the perspective, but Europa and EPI begin to discuss together to be compatible. Okay, so to illustrate the limitation, the example of the P2P is interesting. When you look, when you look at the non-exhaustive list of use cases for account to account, you can list around 11 use cases. So for me, the P2P service cannot be aimed solely at individuals, so as a consumer to consumer, and could be extended to professionals. This is what we call the P2 Pro or the Pro to P. But let's take a closer look at P2P. So the interoperability depends on the typology of payers and payee. You have in this table the different use case I just noted. So for the moment, you have some use cases which are addressed correctly in the same country between customers of banks that have implemented the same solution. So you can make a P2P transaction by between the consumers of these banks. When you are from a different country, you can make a transaction between customers of banks that have implemented the same solution. So from a French guys to a German guys, if the 2 banks where they have their account, if they have implement the same solution, they can do a P2P. But use case 3 and 4 are interesting. Transaction between customers from an EPI bank and a Europa bank are not for the moment possible. So there is in red in the interoperability status. And the last case, the payees bank without any solution. So I do also KO, because this is a specific use case to be addressed. Just comments that it was addressed by Pellegrinelli, but not considered as by EPI as a priority for the moment. So you can't make a P2P to a consumer which is in the bank who didn't join EPI solution. So in the conclusion, if no single pan-European solution emerged, interoperability between solutions must be ensured. From there, personally, I strongly believe that P2Pro and then C2B for electronic commerce, so EM commerce, will be able to take off and finally offer a sovereign alternative to non-European solution. About the perspective, so for me, the end result is for the moment uncertain. There are three possible scenarios. First is the emergence of a dominant European mobile payment methods, maybe not the way where we are going. The second scenario is a multi-country clusters, so with an interoperability. As far as I know, EPI was not open to discussion with competing solutions until very recently. But 2 months ago, EPI made overture to its competitors by inviting all representative digital payment solutions in Europe to join force in favor of a European payment sovereignty. And yesterday, as Harry said at the beginning of the meeting, EPI and Europa announced that they have started formal cooperation to address the European sovereignty challenge. So we are waiting for the conclusion of the discussion and at the end of summer. The last solution is not the best. So the continued fragmentation probably no longer appropriate in these days and age. The list of the prerequisite for success. So first, be inspired by local solution, because EPI and Europa are very recent initiative, and in the domestic solution, there were a lot of experience of what is good to do and what is not. So be inspired by local solution is very important for success. The second point for me is to ensure comprehensive coverage across all channels, as Robert said previously. And last but not the least, unified certification and approval standards to avoid multiple certification if there is the solution of interoperability is the way for success. So that's all for me.
Thank you, Jean-Luc. So here it's to have a just to provide some few words about Nexo and what Nexo is doing on that specific domain. So you may already know Nexo. We already did several webinars and conferences regarding Nexo on card. But Nexo is also working on instant payment on the acceptance part. First of all, really to understand that Nexo is providing an homogeneous set of specifications for handling the exchanges between the different components of the acceptance chain, between the acceptor, the TMS, the cash system by itself, the terminal, also ATM, the acquirers. So Nexo is providing specifications for all that to be sure that each different component of the acceptance part, from the POI point of interaction up to the acquirer, can discuss in an homogeneous way worldwide. So to simplify the different constraints that we do have currently on card, especially on the field in different countries. So Nexo is really providing this type of homogeneous approach based on 2022. And all the specifications are based on 2022. And Nexo provides to 2022 to ISO.org the different evolution and specification to handle payment at the acceptance point of view. So this is really to understand how it means. And also we discussed before with Robert and Jean-Luc, we discussed before on the instant payment and how to handle transactions in instant payment up to the point of interactions. And for that, instant payment is based on 2022, and you need to have an homogeneous aspect up to the acceptance part, able to handle instant payment from a point of interaction up to the different acquirer issuers, so between peer and PA. And this is clearly what Nexo is providing to the field and to the different actors. To be sure to have a correct way to manage transactions at the point of interactions, Nexo is organized with different type of working groups. So you have working groups working on different aspects on that chain and different components. And we have created a specific working group on instant payment to work dedicatedly on, especially on instant payment at POI. So this is ready to be sure that instant payment could be also accepted on the terminal with a different type of evolution that are required between with a payment application on one side, the different interactions between the POS, the terminal and the cash system with the acquirer, and how to update and to manage a TMS and so on. So this is part of the work in progress within Nexo to provide to the market the specification to handle instant payment in complementary mode, I'll say, to cards that is already there. So with Nexo, you can already handle all type of cards on a single terminal with a single payment applications. And next, you will be able, in addition to card, also to handle instant payment at on the terminal. This is clearly the purpose, and this is why there is this dedicated working group working on instant payment. So you know that there is a big question, in fact, in terms of how to ensure the compliance with instant payment on the point of interactions. Nexo already provides a different test plan that support international and domestic card schemes. So this is already provided. Nexo work on that, providing the test plan based on the different elements. And Nexo, the certification behind is based on the different way to manage compliance, letter of compliance by the different schemes, card schemes, based on their own specification. And Nexo provide the test plan, and then you have the certification done by the schemes. And Nexo rely on these authorities for that. So this is something well done, and they work very well on the field. The big question is how to now manage the instant credit transfer, instant payment on PY, because right now there is no really certification bodies that exist at international level to control, to manage that. So this is a big question on how to have this validation on deployment. For one thing is that in part of the different actions that we will have in the future is also, first, we work at Nexo on implementing instant payment in the specification, but the next step will be how to improve also the test plan that Nexo is providing to include then instant payment also. So for that, Nexo has implemented a machine-readable test plan, which is a powerful way to manage and to update the test plan on the machine-readable test plan. So it's quite easy then to improve the test plans that are already done for card, to improve them for instant payment, to be sure that then the different tools providers in the field can upgrade quite easy their test tools based on the machine-readable test plan provided by Nexo. So to update the test tools also to comply with the instant payment requirements on a terminal. So now all countries are involved in instant payment, as we discussed before. So now it's well inside this type of process also to be sure to support the different countries and different actors to add instant payment on the point of interactions, and also then working on the compliance and validation of the different implementations to be done. So this is ready to provide you a global overview on that and the evolution and what bring Nexo to the market, first on card, but then later and very soon on instant payment. So this was to provide you a global view on the aspect. Robert, I will let you the floor to have a global conclusion.
Okay, thank you very much, Arnaud. If you have to remind something of this short webinar as the takeaways, first of all, be convinced that ISO 20022 is now the standard for all financial ecosystems and activities, not only for payments. It's also for foreign exchange, securities, trading, and so on. With the time going on, this standard is now deploying worldwide. Second thing to remind is that really the instant credit transfer is a disruptive payment instrument, digital disruptive payment instrument, because it has the capability to act as cash payment instrument. And these have significant impacts on the financial ecosystems for the reason I said, and especially because all the systems are becoming real-time systems. Third, today we are facing a big challenge, as most of implementation of instant credit transfer has done with P2P use cases, as said by Jean-Luc, and we need to set up a standardization. It's a very key point on the field to have a seamless acceptance in C2B for merchant payment, for instance. And last but not least, nexos standard is today the only contributor I know that an ISO 2022 contributor that is able to standardize the acceptance of the instant credit transfer at the point of sale, and nexos standard is working hard to do that. I think that mainly that are the four key takeaways you should remind. Thank you. Well, maybe we can have now some questions. The floor.
Yes, thank you to the three speakers. So I had proposed on the chat to submit whatever question you may have on the presentation. There is not yet anything shared there, but maybe some of you could just voice their questions right now. If you want to do so, please do it now.
Yes, Harry speaking. Yes, many thanks for this presentation. Just maybe some comments. As Jean-Luc said, maybe I think maybe API Wero was a good dream for the European market, but in the reality, I think the reality is the interoperability between the local solution. And it is the goal of Europa, Euro Payment Alliance. And now API is open to be interconnected with Europa. It's a good fact, a good way. And I think that we have two big scenarios. The first is only a bridge or hub between these local solutions. And it is as it is defined in the past by the EPC, European Payment Council, with high-level framework. And the other solution is maybe to define a mutual acceptance network. And I think Nexo, it is the right solution. Nexo in the past has defined as supports different card scheme with like Visa, MasterCard, card bancaire, Girocard. And I think in the future, Nexo can make the same for the instant payment scheme and a nexo can support different instant payment scheme like EPI or Europa. And I think it is the DNA of a nexo to work on this solution, on this way to define the European market in terms of sovereignty. And don't forget, we have also the digital euro of the ECB behind this convergence between the private initiative.
I mean, thank you very much, Aris. It's very interesting what you just mentioned. Indeed, Nexo is not providing a payment solution as such. Nexo is there to help the different payment solution to be handled in a simple way on all the acceptance way. So already done, as you mentioned, for card space, with the different schemes already managed, with the different specificities for each card schemes. And the purpose for instant payment will be indeed to manage different payment, instant payment instrument by default. So Europa with a different payment solution behind Europa, EP, API, and Wero, and maybe also outside of Europe, some other type of instant payment. The purpose is really to have the right fields, right type of information to manage instant payment from a terminal point of view up to the banks and the banking systems behind that, and to be able to manage different scenarios. So to have an open way to handle transactions, instant payment in that case, in a simple way for implementers, for merchants, for all the different actors, to simplify the implementation of the payment solutions. Could be card, instant payment, and tomorrow digital euro, indeed. But so to simplify the deployment, to simplify the implementation, the development, the validations, and all that space, and to avoid to have multiple type of implementation and specific implementation. The worst scenario is to be forced to install specific implementation for specific solutions. And it's really not a good solution because it's a barrier to deployment. It's a barrier to deploy in different countries. It's very costly. And when you need to manage and to update and to maintain that, it's costly for everyone. Using Nexo, it's one implementation fits all somehow. So with one application, you can manage cards. You will be able to manage instant payment. What could be the solution? And then it's a service approach. It's a marketing approach, it's a business approach. It's no more a technical issue. It's really how to provide additional services to all the different actors. And as you mentioned, Nexo also, and this is a public aspect, for the time being on digital euro, European Central Bank has defined Nexo as a protocol to be used for the acceptance part based on 2022, because Nexo is neutral in that field.
Today we are knowing these two biggest initiative, EPI and JLPi in Europe. But be aware that conceptually you can have any other stakeholder setting up
and notably in the Africa market.
A competitor, not only in Africa, but including in Europe. You can have more initiatives that can use a different way to implement the payment request and the acceptance application, in fact. So the next month will be very, very interesting because all the stakeholders need to take decision about what to do in the future, in fact. But interoperability is the key word.
First question, it's about payment requests that was mentioned in the slides from Robert. So can you answer this first one, which is a 32 question, a real question? What does payment request really means, and who will send the payment request? Can you elaborate, please?
Yeah, thank you for this question, Christian. Payment request is a fact that we do automatically a request from the acceptor of the payee to be paid by a payer, for instance, in order to deliver goods and services. And always the payee is sending the payment request to the payer. But we can have different way to do that. Either we can do that like in some countries with a local channel, for instance, scanning from one application to another application, from the application of the payer to the application of the payee. The data of the payee, what do we have inside the payment request? Mainly, we have two things. The payee account reference in order to be paid, that is not known by the payer usually, and the amount of the transaction and the currency of the transaction to be paid. So with this, at least these two data, we need to send it to the payer in order him to make the initiation of the payment. So always it is sent by the payee to the payer, but you can send it locally with QR code or NFC or Bluetooth or whatever, or you can send it like for EPI or JLPi through RTP scheme or equivalent request to pay scheme that may handle the entities that are able to exchange the payment request and to accept the way that the payer is willing to pay. Just something important, in Europe, we have some specificity on the payment request because the regulation allow to have what we call open banking, the capability for a third party to initiate a credit transfer on behalf of a payer. And this capability is very important because if a payer gives the consent to what we call a PISP, a payment initiator service provider, to issue an initiation of ICT on behalf, in this case, we can have several use cases and variants of these use cases that are part of the initiative we have in Europe. So you see that it's a world, very, very interesting world and quite complex, from the simpler one when you are paying with QR code to some complex one use cases when you are involving some PISP inside the payment request.
I understand. So maybe I can move to Arnaud for the last three ones that are more about Nexo and its potential challenges for standardization. So what are or is there any alternative or competing standard to your Nexo standards addressing these challenges of acceptance of ICT?
Yeah, it's quite interesting, this type of question. The 8, is there any alternative competing standards to Nexo? It's interesting because first, Nexo is a non-profit association. So in that way, it's not a competing organization, I would say, because it's non-profit. So Nexo is not trying to have any or to sell any specific solution and so on. So in that way, the competition is not, well, the right word first. Then to ask this type of question is equivalent to ask, is there any competition to ISO 20022? Well, yeah, you can deploy or you can implement your own protocol if you want. You can use ISO 8583. This is a very old-fashioned way to do it. You can use your own specifications and a way to handle transaction. But in that case, you will work on your own, and you will force the actors that they want to use your solution, in that case, to deploy and to develop your own specification and proprietary solution. So in that way, it's not really a competition to Nexo. Nexo is to provide to the fields, to the markets, to all the players worldwide, the right way to handle transactions. Then the players can do what they want. They can follow and implement and use Nexo specification based on 2022, or they can adapt and deploy a very specific protocol if they want to. But in that case, they are no more interoperable with others. It will have an issue for them. It could be an issue for them, to deploy their solution in different markets, different fields, and so on, because it's no more using a standard. Here it's ready to use a standard. So Nexo provide work on how implementers can use a standard to manage transactions. What could be this type of transactions? So it's why it's not a real competition with others. And on one side, you use a standard way to manage transactions that you will be interoperable with others, or you use your own proprietary protocols and you force the market to deploy or to develop and to invest in your own protocol. So if you use a specific way to manage it, in that case, you want to keep the market captive somehow, let's say that. You want to block, you want to force actors, you want to constrain and to have some constraint on the market, or you focus more on deploying new services for the benefit of everyone. You use a standard to simplify the deployment, and you will simplify your own deployment in that case, because you can also deploy new services on solutions that use this type of standard, and it will be quicker and easier because it's already deployed and they're already using standards. So to summarize, it's not a competition with Nexo. There is no competition. It's on one side, you have standards. It's ISO 20022, and you don't ask for competition about ISO 20022. It's obvious. It's not a competition. It's the evolution of the market. So Nexo is 2022 and is working specifically on acceptance part. If you go to ISO.org, you will see that all what is providing for the acceptance part is from Nexo. On the financial point of view, you have different contributor. On the acceptance, it's Nexo contributor. So it's not a competition.
You have a question in the chat that relative to what you said. Abba is saying, what about the interaction with Asian market like China, the American one and the Canadian one? And what is exactly the goal of Nexo?
Well, yes, clearly, yes. For instance, JLPi is also working for QR code from the Asian point of view. JP Morgan also from American. So different players are working also on with Nexo, within Nexo, or they are interesting or they are working on implementing Nexo. But again, Nexo, it's a standard. So it's not a solution. It's a standard that is providing to all different players. The different market from American, from China, from Canada, and so on, they can contribute to Nexo to be sure that their specificity for the market are well taken into account if they want to. And they can use the specification from Nexo to be used on their own market. So it's really an international way to work. It was done, started from a European landscape at first, and then deploy in all countries. We discussed quickly about African market. They are very interesting also, and they are migrating to 2022 quite quickly. I would say that it's the sense of the history on payments to go now to 2022. As we discussed, we see that all actors and the market is migrating to 2022 for many very good reasons, to add new services, new way to handle transactions, additional services on transactions, and you need to manage additional data. And it's obvious that only 2022 can do that. 8583, it's no more accurate to do that. It can't evolve. You can't have, for instance, electronic invoices. with 8583. It clearly is impossible to do that. So if you want to have electronic invoices, you need to have a 2022 format to manage all the different line items in the electronic invoice. And this is the sense of the history now. So yes, it's global, working with the different actors. If you are not member of Nexo, of course, you can participate to Nexo, and you are much more welcome to become a member of Nexo and to contribute also, or to have a view on the next evolutions of the specifications.
Okay, thank you, Arnaud. So I think you answered more or less the last question as well. Where there are many acquirers working and looking for the standards, working on it with Nexo. But what about the time frame? What is the status today?
Well, time frame, it's already up and running. It's already deployed. So Nexo, many versions has been already done. And by the way, the first Nexo transactions was done 12 years ago. So it's already in the field, and it has been deployed on different countries. So 12 years ago, the first Nexo transaction was done. So just to say that it's already working, already deployed. Many actors already use Nexo by standard. It's not always communicated because it's part of what is done behind the scene. And many actors use Nexo to manage transactions, solutions, and so on their side, as a standard on their side. And then they can have a converter when it's required to have exchange with some specific actors that they are not yet migrated, they have not yet remigrated to Nexo. But at least to do that, they have a common framework on their side. This provides them a huge capability for evolution, innovations, adaptabilities to different countries, to different type of payments. And then depending on the actors, banks, acquirers that they're working with, they use a converter just at that point, waiting to have the acquirers ready also or implementing Nexo. So the time frame is already there. It's already deployed. Now, in terms of instant payment, it's a work in progress to implement or to validate the specification first. So to be sure that we have handled and we have added all the different fields required for instant payment in the specification. Then it will be published on ISO.org to become totally official and worldwide, and for all actors to start to using for instant payment. But as we discussed before, it's also part of the work with EP, with Bizum, Europa, and to be sure that their one specific way to handle transactions are also taken into account in that case. So it's already live.
Okay, so work in progress for the ICT, taking into account all what's already happening. And then, of course, all the other standards are Nexo are up and running for and deployed. Okay, thank you for your answers. If there is no other questions.
We have a question in the chat, Christian, please.
I can't see any new.
We have a question in the chat. Is Arnaud? Arnaud, I don't know.
Okay, sorry, I missed it. So the question is the QR code safe enough in terms of security? How do you ensure that the spam is not included in the QR code when sent by the payee? Okay,
this is a very, very good question. QR code have some limitation, in fact, Arnaud. They have first the limitation of the size of the QR code for some of the messages, and also the limitation of security. In fact, if you see the EMV specification on QR code, you have some CRC data at the end of the QR code in order to check that the data is consistent. It's only for integrity. But it's quite easy to change whatever you want, including the account reference inside the QR code, and to recalculate the CRC accordingly. So we cannot say that the QR code is a safe way in order to send data. But is like the USSD messages. They have very, very local exchange, in fact. And usually you exchange the QR code through two smart devices or mobile devices, like two smartphones or from a computer to a smartphone or something like that. So it's very complicated to very complicated. No, it's more difficult to get the message and to change it in real time and to have some kind of spam changing the QR code. It's possible, but it's not so easy to do for a hacker. And it will be only for a small amount of money. So, but your question is very interesting because this kind of question we need to set up on the table when we are dealing with payment requests sent to an RTP schemes. Like authorization, we cannot send a payment request through a network, an open network or a network between two financial institutions without some kind of security, checking the integrity of the message, of course, and being sure that there is no man in the middle attack on the payment request, because this was what occurred in Brazil with the PIC system. In Brazil, they set up a payment request scheme without security, and they had a lot of fraud on that. So very good question. Thank you, Arnaud. I don't know if you want if I answer your question or if you want me to complement.
Thank you, Robert, for this answers to this interesting question. Another thing on the chat. No, it's okay. It was the thanks from Arnaud. So I think it seems we are done with the question from the audience and from this slide, this single slide. So we can close the webinar a bit ahead of schedule, which is fine for all of us, I guess. Thank you very much to all speakers. Thank you to the audience. The replay will be made available in the coming weeks with after a little bit of cleanup of the video. Thanks again, and see you soon on the EESTEL LinkedIn feed or on the website. Thank you very much.